My friends, I want to talk to you today about something that's holding many of us back. We live in a world that tells us to be nice, to be polite, to go along with the flow. But I want to ask you, is that all God called you to be? Just nice? Just agreeable? Just someone who never stirs the waters? No, my friends, He has called you to be fearless. God has not given you a spirit of fear. This truth is foundational to living a life of courage, faith, and purpose. Fear is one of the greatest weapons the enemy uses to keep people trapped, hesitant, and ineffective. It whispers doubts, stirs anxieties, and paralyzes even the strongest of hearts. But the Word of God is clear. Fear is not from Him. Instead, He has given us a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. Many people live their lives bound by fear, afraid of failure, afraid of rejection, afraid of stepping into the unknown. They hesitate when opportunities arise because they are worried about what could go wrong. They hold back from pursuing their dreams because they fear they are not good enough. They remain silent when they should speak up because they fear the opinions of others. But fear is not our inheritance. It is not the defining force of our lives. When we allow fear to dictate our choices, we give it more power than it deserves. Power is what God has given us in place of fear. Not human strength, not worldly authority, but divine power, the kind that enables us to face the impossible with confidence. This power gives us the ability to overcome obstacles, to persevere through trials, and to stand firm in the face of opposition. It is the same power that raised Christ from the dead, and it dwells within us. When fear tells us we can, when fear tries to shrink us, God's power lifts us up. Love is another gift that replaces fear. The Bible tells us that perfect love drives out fear. Fear and love cannot coexist because fear focuses on punishment, rejection, and loss, while love operates in security, acceptance, and abundance. When we are rooted in the love of God, fear loses its grip. We no longer live to please people. We live to please God. We no longer fear abandonment because we know we are deeply loved. Love gives us the confidence to step out in faith, knowing that no matter what happens, we are held securely in God's hands. A sound mind is another promise God has given us instead of fear. Fear thrives in confusion, chaos, and uncertainty. It makes us second-guess ourselves, question our worth, and imagine worst-case scenarios. But God has given us a mind that is sound, stable, and filled with wisdom. A sound mind does not panic in the face of trials. It does not fall apart when challenges come. It is anchored in truth. It sees through the lies of fear and stands on the promises of God. When fear says you're going to fail, a sound mind says God is with me. When fear whispers you're not good enough, a sound mind declares I am chosen, called, and equipped. Living without fear does not mean we will never feel afraid. There will be moments when fear tries to creep in, but we do not have to bow to it. We do not have to let it control us. We can choose to stand in the power, love, and wisdom that God has given us. Every great person of faith in the Bible had to overcome fear. Moses feared he was inadequate, but God used him to lead a nation. Gideon feared he was too weak, but God called him a mighty warrior. Peter feared the waves, but when he focused on Jesus, he walked on water. The same God who empowered them empowers us today. The choice is ours. Will we live in fear, or will we embrace the power, love, and sound mind that God has given us? The world needs fearless men and women, people who will step out in faith, speak the truth in love, and trust God even when the path is uncertain. When we choose faith over fear, we step into the life we were created to live. You are a child of God, created for a purpose. This is a truth that changes everything. Too often people go through life uncertain of their identity, unsure of their worth, and unaware of the incredible plan God has for them. The world tries to define people by their achievements, failures, or the opinions of others. But none of these things determine true identity. The only thing that defines you is the fact that you are created by God, chosen by Him, and given a purpose that no one else can fulfill. When you know who you are, fear begins to lose its power over you. You no longer live for the approval of people because you understand that God has already approved of you. You no longer shrink back in insecurity because you recognize that God has placed His hand upon your life. Many people spend their lives trying to fit in, trying to measure up, trying to be someone they were never meant to be. But God never called you to blend in. He called you to stand out. He called you to be bold, to live with purpose, and to walk confidently in the identity He has given you. The enemy will always try to make you question who you are. He did it in the Garden of Eden when he asked Eve, "Did God really say?" He did it when Jesus was in the wilderness, tempting him to prove his identity as the Son of God. The enemy's tactic is always the same: planting doubt, stirring insecurity, and making people forget who they truly are. But when you know the truth, you can resist the lies. You are not a mistake. You are not forgotten. You are not insignificant. You are a child of the Most High God, fearfully and wonderfully made, created for a divine purpose that no one else can fulfill. When you embrace your identity in God, the next step is to live it out by stepping forward in faith. Fear will always try to keep you where you are, whispering that you're not ready, that you're not strong enough, that you might fail. But faith moves you beyond fear. Faith looks at the impossible and says, "With God, all things are possible." Faith sees the obstacles, but chooses to trust that God will make a way. Stepping out in faith requires action. It means moving even when you don't have all the answers. It means saying yes to God even when the path ahead is unclear. Peter stepped out of the boat when Jesus called him. He could have stayed where it was safe, where the waves weren't a threat, but instead he took a step of faith. And for a moment he did the impossible. He walked on water. The moment he took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the wind and waves, he began to sink. But even then, Jesus was right there to lift him up. That's what faith looks like. It's not about never feeling fear. It's about choosing to trust God more than the fear. It's about stepping out even when doubts try to creep in. It's about believing that if God has called you, He will sustain you. Too many people stay in the boat, afraid to take the step. They let fear talk them out of their calling, out of their destiny. But God is calling you to more. He is calling you to step out, to trust Him, to go beyond what you think is possible. When you know who you are and you step out in faith, your life begins to change. Fear loses its grip. Boldness rises up, and you begin to live the life God intended for you. You were never meant to stay hidden, to live in doubt, or to be controlled by fear. You were created to walk in confidence, to live in faith, and to step boldly into the purpose God has set before you. God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. This truth is the foundation for stepping into the life He has called you to live. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles that keep people from fulfilling their purpose. It whispers lies of doubt, insecurity, and failure, convincing people that they are not enough, that they do not have what it takes, or that they will fail if they try. But fear is not from God. It is an enemy that must be overcome. When you truly understand that God has given you power, love, and a sound mind, you begin to walk in a new level of boldness and confidence. Power is the ability to overcome the challenges and obstacles that life throws at you. This is not human strength or worldly influence, but divine power, the same power that raised Christ from the dead. It is the power to stand firm in the face of adversity, to keep going when everything seems impossible, and to trust that God is in control even when you cannot see the outcome. Many people live as though they are weak, unable to break free from fear. But the truth is that God has already given them the strength to rise above their struggles. They simply need to embrace it and walk in it. Love is the force that drives out fear. The Bible says that perfect love casts out all fear. When you are rooted in the love of God, you do not have to live in insecurity or worry about the opinions of others. Fear often arises from the belief that you are alone, that you are not enough, or that you will fail. But love assures you that you are never alone, that you are deeply valued, and that your worth is not based on your success or failure. Love gives you confidence to step forward, knowing that no matter what happens, God is with you and for you. A sound mind is a mind at peace, a mind anchored in truth. Fear breeds confusion, doubt, and panic, but a sound mind allows you to see situations clearly and respond with wisdom and faith. When fear tries to cloud your thinking, a sound mind reminds you of the promises of God. When anxiety tries to overwhelm you, a sound mind steadies you and helps you stand firm. This is a gift that God has given, but you must choose to embrace it by focusing on His truth instead of the lies of fear. Once you recognize that God has given you power, love, and a sound mind, the next step is to know who you are. You are not just another person drifting through life. You are a child of God, created for a purpose. Too many people live their lives unsure of their identity, seeking approval from the world instead of embracing who God made them to be. But your identity is not found in what others think, in your past mistakes, or in your circumstances. It is found in God alone. When you truly understand that you are chosen, loved, and called by Him, you no longer live in fear. Knowing your identity allows you to step out in faith. Faith is the key to moving forward despite uncertainty. Fear will always try to keep you where you are, whispering that you are not ready, that you are not capable, or that you might fail. But faith says, with God, all things are possible. It pushes you beyond your comfort zone and into the life God has for you. Stepping out in faith does not mean you will never feel afraid. It means you trust God more than your fear. When Peter saw Jesus walking on the water, he could have stayed in the boat where it was safe, but when Jesus called him, he stepped out. For a moment, he walked on water because his focus was on Christ. The moment he looked at the waves, he began to sink. But even then, Jesus was there to lift him up. This is the life of faith, stepping out even when you do not have all the answers, trusting that God will sustain you. God is calling you to more. He is calling you to step out in boldness, to embrace your identity, and to walk in faith. Fear is not your future. Faith is. You were not created to live in doubt or insecurity, but to walk in confidence, knowing that God has already given you everything you need to fulfill His purpose for your life. God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Fear is one of the greatest forces that hold people back from stepping into their true calling. It paralyzes, it silences, and it keeps people stuck in places they were never meant to stay. But fear does not come from God. He has given His people the ability to stand strong, to overcome, and to move forward with confidence. The spirit of power enables believers to rise above their circumstances, to face challenges head on, and to trust that no matter what comes their way, they are equipped to handle it. This power is not human strength, it is divine strength. It is the power that allows ordinary people to do extraordinary things through faith. Along with power, God gives love, a force so strong that it drives out all fear. Fear makes people doubt their worth, worry about the future, and feel alone in their struggles. But love reminds them that they are never alone, that they are cherished beyond measure, and that their value is not determined by what they do or fail to do. Love brings security. It brings confidence. When a person truly understands the depth of God's love for them, fear loses its grip. They no longer live to please people, to avoid failure, or to seek approval. Instead, they live with the assurance that they are already fully known and fully loved by their Creator. A sound mind is another powerful gift from God. Fear creates confusion, anxiety, and doubt, but a sound mind is stable, clear, and focused on truth. A sound mind does not panic in the face of difficulties. It does not waver when obstacles arise. Instead, it stands firm on God's promises. It reminds believers that no matter how chaotic life may seem, God is still in control. A sound mind does not allow fear to dictate decisions. It moves forward in wisdom and faith. Understanding these gifts, power, love, and a sound mind is essential, but so is knowing who you are. Too many people go through life unsure of their identity, allowing circumstances or other people to define them. They seek validation in the wrong places and live in insecurity because they do not truly know who they are. But the truth is clear. They are children of God, created for a purpose. When people understand their identity in Christ, they no longer live in fear of failure or rejection. They walk in confidence, knowing that they have been chosen, equipped, and called to a higher purpose. With this identity comes the need for action. Knowing who you are is only the beginning. You must also step out in faith. Faith is what moves mountains. It is what allows people to trust God even when they cannot see the full picture. Fear will always try to keep people stuck in their comfort zones, but faith calls them to step out, to take risks, and to believe that God will provide the strength they need. Faith is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting the one who does. Yet faith alone is not enough. Persistence is also required. Many people start strong but give up when things get difficult. The road to victory is not easy. Challenges will come, obstacles will arise, and discouragement will try to set in, but those who refuse to quit are the ones who see the greatest breakthroughs. God does not promise a life without struggles, but He does promise to be with those who keep pressing forward. Living a fearless life does not mean the absence of fear. It means refusing to let fear have the final say. It means walking in the power, love, and sound mind that God has given. It means knowing who you are, stepping out in faith, and refusing to quit when things get tough. Fear is not your destiny, faith is. You were not created to live in doubt or insecurity, but to walk boldly into the life God has prepared for you. God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Fear is not just an emotion. It is a weapon the enemy uses to hold people back from their destiny. It makes them doubt their abilities, question their worth, and hesitate when they should move forward. But fear is a lie. It has no power except what people give it. God has already equipped His children with everything they need to overcome fear. He has given them power, the ability to rise above challenges, to keep going when things get tough, and to trust that He is always in control. This power is not human strength, but divine strength. The same power that raised Christ from the dead. When people walk in this power, they no longer live in fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. God has also given love, and love is stronger than fear. The Bible says that perfect love casts out all fear. Fear makes people believe they are alone, unloved, and unworthy, but love tells them the opposite. Love reminds them that they are chosen, valued, and never abandoned. When people are rooted in God's love, they no longer seek approval from others. They do not need to prove themselves because they know they are already accepted by God. Love gives them confidence to walk boldly, to take risks, and to live without the weight of fear holding them down. Along with power and love, God has given a sound mind. Fear thrives on confusion and chaos, but a sound mind brings peace, clarity, and focus. A sound mind does not allow fear to take over. It does not give in to panic or doubt. Instead, it is steady, unwavering, and full of wisdom. A person with a sound mind is not ruled by emotions, but by truth. They stand firm on God's promises, knowing that He is in control, no matter what circumstances they face. Once people understand these gifts, power, love, and a sound mind, the next step is to embrace their identity. Too many people live unsure of who they are, letting circumstances or others define them. They believe lies that they are not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. But the truth is this: they are children of God, created with purpose. When people know who they are, fear loses its grip. They stop living in doubt and insecurity. They walk with confidence, knowing they were made for more. They no longer try to fit in or seek approval from the world. Instead, they stand boldly in the identity God has given them. Knowing who they are leads to action. Faith is what moves people forward. Fear tells them to wait until they feel ready, until they have all the answers, until the path is clear. But faith says, step out now. Faith does not require certainty, only trust in God. When Peter saw Jesus walking on water, he could have stayed in the boat where it was safe. But Jesus called him to step out, and in faith he did. For a moment he walked on water. The moment he focused on the waves, fear made him sink. But even then, Jesus was there to lift him up. That is what faith looks like, stepping out even when fear tries to hold you back. Yet stepping out is not enough. Persistence is also required. Many start strong but give up when challenges arise. The road to victory is not easy. Struggles will come, obstacles will appear, and discouragement will try to take hold. But those who refuse to quit will see the greatest breakthroughs. God does not promise an easy journey, but He promises to be with those who keep pressing forward. Living fearlessly does not mean never feeling afraid. It means refusing to let fear control your life. It means walking in power, love, and a sound mind. It means knowing who you are, stepping out in faith, and refusing to quit when things get hard. Fear is not your destiny. Faith is. You were not created to live in doubt, hesitation, or insecurity. You were created to walk boldly into the life God has prepared for you. God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Fear is a tool of the enemy designed to keep people from stepping into their God-given purpose. It whispers lies of doubt, insecurity, and hesitation, convincing people that they are not enough or that failure is inevitable. But fear is a deception. God has already provided everything needed to overcome it. He has given power, the divine strength to rise above challenges, to endure trials, and to walk with confidence. This power is not dependent on personal ability, but on God's unfailing presence. When people walk in His power, they no longer shrink back in fear, but move forward with boldness, knowing that He goes before them. God has also given love, and love is stronger than fear. The Bible declares that perfect love casts out all fear. Fear makes people feel alone, rejected, or unworthy, but love tells them the truth. They are chosen, deeply valued, and never forsaken. When people are rooted in the love of God, they no longer seek validation from the world. They stop living for approval and start living from a place of confidence. Love empowers them to take risks, to pursue their purpose, and to face challenges without fear of failure. It assures them that no matter what happens, they are secure in God's hands. A sound mind is another powerful gift from God. Fear breeds confusion, anxiety, and irrational thinking, but a sound mind is steady, clear, and focused on truth. It does not panic in adversity. It does not give in to the chaos of emotions. Instead, it remains anchored in God's promises. A sound mind does not allow fear to dictate decisions, but instead chooses wisdom, faith, and trust. When people walk in the peace of a sound mind, they can face any situation with confidence, knowing that God is in control. With these gifts, power, love, and a sound mind, comes the responsibility to embrace identity. Many people live in insecurity because they do not know who they truly are. They allow their past, their mistakes, or the opinions of others to define them. But identity is not determined by circumstances. It is found in God alone. He has called each person for a unique purpose, and He has equipped them to fulfill it. When people understand their true identity, they stop living in fear of failure or rejection. They walk with boldness, knowing they are children of God, created for more. Knowing who they are leads to action. Faith is what moves people forward. Fear tells them to wait for the perfect moment, for all the answers, for absolute certainty. But faith says, step out now. Faith is not about having everything figured out. It is about trusting the one who does. Peter walked on water not because he had special abilities, but because he stepped out in faith when Jesus called him. For a moment, he did the impossible until he looked at the waves and allowed fear to take over. But even then, Jesus was there to lift him up. This is what faith looks like, choosing to step forward despite fear, trusting that God will sustain. However, stepping out is not enough. Persistence is required. Many people begin with excitement, but quit when challenges arise. The path to victory is not easy. Trials will come, setbacks will happen, and discouragement will try to take hold. But those who refuse to quit will see the greatest breakthroughs. God never promised an easy journey, but He promised to walk with those who endure. Those who persist despite obstacles will see God's faithfulness in ways they never imagined. Living fearlessly does not mean never feeling afraid. It means refusing to let fear control your life. It means walking in power, love, and a sound mind. It means embracing your identity, stepping out in faith, and refusing to quit when things get hard. Fear is not your future. Faith is. You were not created to live in doubt or hesitation. You were created to walk boldly, to trust fully, and to step into the life God has prepared for you.